Welcome to the start of this series, which is on penetration testing Kubernetes clusters, the basics. I want to talk about why I'm doing this series and why you should even care about hacking Kubernetes. So first off, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because it doesn't exist yet. There is no tutorial series on how to hack Kubernetes. Like, it doesn't exist. There's some conference talks. There are some good blogs. There's no tutorial series. This is a not new, actually, just a really complicated area of security that's becoming increasingly important because Kubernetes is everywhere. But there seems to be some dissonance between the hacking community and the DevOps community, and so there's a need for this series. I'm making this series. But why should you care? Let's talk about that. Kubernetes is everywhere. So I think when I last looked on Shodan, I saw like 400,000, if not more, Kubernetes nodes. So I don't know how that compares to other services, but when you look at this crazy number of companies using Kubernetes, you have to wonder why like there isn't more published on like offensive security of Kubernetes. I mean, like at like a beginner level. It's really in the realm of like research papers and conference talks and like really just one or two blogs out there. It's not general knowledge. And it really makes you wonder why, because Kubernetes really is everywhere. I think it's rare to have such an ubiquitous technology that so little people know how to secure and how to break into. This won't last forever, of course. I think that we're kind of on the precipice of like that needle moving. Right now, I think it's just not at the forefront of people's minds, but it's starting to be. Okay. Reason number 2. As containerized apps spread, so does Kubernetes. One could make the argument that, okay, Kubernetes is pretty popular, but it's going to stay where it's at and blah, blah, blah. No, not at all. Every year, there's more and more live clusters. This is a really relatively new technology considering how fast it's spreading. And the reason for that is because containerized applications are being used more and more. Docker, basically, mostly, is being used more and more. Because Docker solves the problem of, among other problems, it solves the problem for developers of, well, this works on my computer, why doesn't it work on yours? Personally, I think eventually all applications will be containerized. And if that's how it is, then Kubernetes will be like de facto. And if you work in the security field right now, eventually I think Kubernetes will be unignorable if that's the case. Reason number 3, Kubernetes is a supercomputer technology, and that's really cool, right? Now, the supercomputer technology analogy is kind of something I made up. You won't hear about it, but hear me out. Kubernetes controls multiple computers. So it could be 2. It could also be 2,000 or I don't know, maybe like 1,000. I'm not really sure what the max limit is. But supercomputers used to be like, okay, there's this one big piece of hardware and it takes up a whole room and it does really large calculations. That's not how modern supercomputers are. We don't scale vertically. We scale horizontally. We connect regular sized computers together virtually using technologies like Kubernetes. So Kubernetes controls clusters of computers. A cluster of computer is like the modern supercomputer. Kubernetes is a supercomputer technology. So why not learn to hack supercomputers, right? I don't know. Seems like a pretty easy sell to me. Seems pretty cool. But I don't know. It's a personal preference maybe. Okay. Reason number 4 why you should learn how to hack Kubernetes clusters. Kubernetes is insecure by default. When is that really the case in the security world? I mean, people talk about how easy things were to hack in the 90s and the 2000s, and maybe some even call it the golden age of hacking. Uh, Really, as long as you're ahead of the curve, as long as you're doing security on technologies that other people don't understand so much yet, it's always going to be that easy. And I mean, Kubernetes, like 2 years ago, I think, don't quote me on that, there was, I mean, you could get like remote code execution just based off of like default behaviors in the kubelet API, I believe. So what I'm saying is like Kubernetes is still relatively, if you understand it, easy to hack because people just don't configure it correctly. So be ahead of the curve, be with the bleeding edge technologies, do the security that other people aren't doing, learn how to hack Kubernetes. And that brings me to reason number 5, which is the Kubernetes security world is still in its infant stages. I'm pretty sure it was Mark Manning in his talk at ShmooCon 2020. I love that talk. That said that in the Kubernetes world, like, we're not really defending against the next really big bad CVE quite yet. We're still in an earlier stage where we're just trying to get people to configure it correctly. Because like I said, Kubernetes does not come secure out of the box. So it's like the security world just hasn't caught up to it. I mean, call it what you will. The point is, it's a good time. If you're interested in going where other people aren't, then I think it's a great idea to learn how to hack Kubernetes clusters. Yeah, those are all the reasons that I could think of in like the 2 minutes before this video. So yeah, moving on with the series. In the next video, you're going to see me set up a project by Rory McCune, which lets you set up like a Kubernetes hacking playground on your computer just using Docker. Definitely use this project. I haven't found anything else that's nearly as like simple or useful. It gives you various scenarios, and I made a video to help you install it so that you can just get up and running. So yeah, let's move on with the series. Stay sharp. Have a good day.